Hello and welcome back to my vlog and World Autism Awareness Week. Today's vlog, I thought I would share with you guys my autism story. It's something personal that I haven't shared. It's something that I haven't really said out loud, and I haven't really I guess I've still not really properly processed it myself yet. I'm still working through all the feelings and everything that comes with it. So today is the first time that I'm going to stand here and say, I do apologise. I've got a really, it doesn't feel like I'm talking very loud. I do apologise. Today is the first time that I'm going to stand here and I'm going to say, I am autistic. I'm an autistic female. So what is my story? I was diagnosed with Erlen syndrome in February 2017, hence the glasses. These are made up, I think I've spoken about these before, are made up of like two different blue colours, a light blue and a darker blue, and then a grey colour, and those are the colours that my brain doesn't process the light waves of properly. So without these, the whole world is totally bright all the time, like the sun is out 24/7, just all of the time, constantly, and I end up with really bad headaches. I was getting them daily, but since I had my glasses, they've stopped, unless I'm dehydrated or unless I get just a natural headache. So I was diagnosed with that, and then after being diagnosed with Erlen and after getting my glasses, I started to notice that there were other things that I was finding really, really difficult. And I thought it was due to the Erlen and due to the glasses. And so I spoke to the diagnostician that diagnosed the Erlen, because I thought maybe I just needed like an update of the colours in my glasses. And so I spoke to her about them, the difficulties I was facing, and she said, no, it's not your glasses. I'm going to do some research to see if it's Erlen related. At that point, she didn't know. And although I work with people on the spectrum, every case is different. And because I hadn't seen female autism, I didn't understand that I was actually on the spectrum myself, that it genuinely had not dawned on me that all these difficulties I was facing were autism, and I should have known it, so I think that kind of delayed the diagnosis more. So I was diagnosed with autism. I think it's nearly a month ago now, so it was March this year, 2019, and it was I found it was quite a long process, a long journey to get to the final diagnosis. So what route I took, I went to the GP in April last year, 2018. That first appointment, even at the GP's to try to get the referral, was really, really difficult for me. I don't go to the doctors. I don't do things like that. Luckily, I booked it on the internet because I don't do phone calls. And when I went to the GP, I had a list of all the things that I struggled with. They were in bullet points as well, and I fully intended to read the bullet point and expand on that with how that difficulty affects me. And I actually couldn't expand on any of them. I just got in there and literally held it to my face, read exactly what I'd written, and then put it down. The GP then just looked at me and said, "That was really difficult for you. I could tell. I'm going to refer you." So straight away he could tell that the way I was communicating, I didn't quite have that communication skill. Once I was referred, I waited for my first appointment at the hospital, which was then in October. So you've got April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So 6 months from seeing the GP to being referred to the hospital. Waited 6 months for my first appointment. That was half an hour to 45 minutes. I took my sister along with me to the first appointment, because it's always better if you take somebody with you that knows you well, a family member, a friend even, but it's more helpful if it's a family member. So we stayed there for 30 to 45 minutes. We discussed with the doctor there what I was finding difficult, and then we got some questionnaires. And I know this is different everywhere, because some people get their questionnaires sent out to them first and you fill them in at home and then you bring them to your first appointment, whereas I went to my first appointment, then discussed my difficulties, then got all the paperwork that I had to take home with me, fill it all in, get my mum to fill in the booklet from when I was a baby right the way through to now, which was really difficult for her because she couldn't remember a lot of the things from my childhood. That's why I think it's a lot easier to get a diagnosis when you are younger, because it's happening right then and there, rather than have to wait years and years and not be able to remember all those things that I was struggling with even back then as a child. So once we filled all that in, we sent it back. Then we waited for, we had to wait for that to be marked, and then they decided from that and from the evidence that I'd supplied through the doctor and through that first appointment, whether I was then eligible or whether I needed a full assessment. So then I got a letter. It was going to be, the full assessment was actually going to be from October. It was going to be in February. So October, November, December, January, February. So that was another 4 months after October. Luckily for me, somebody previous to me on the waiting list, dropped out, and therefore their appointment became available to me in November. So just 1 month later, literally, was my full assessment. The full assessment was 3 hours. It was really difficult. It was long. It was tiring. At the end of the 3 hours, I literally just went home and slept because it was just so tiring. There was a lot in that 3 hours to cram in. Again, I took my mum to that one. We kind of it was 3 hours, an hour and a half with my mum and an hour and a half with me. The psychologist spoke to my mum about all the things that she'd filled in the booklet of questions, and then afterwards pulled me in separately. She went and sat in the waiting room, and he spoke to me about all these questions that were filled in, how that was affecting me, all the difficulties I faced, what difficulties I was having at work, in my personal life, all these different kinds of things. And then we did a couple of just a few little activities, and they were nothing to worry about. They were quite simple activities. They weren't necessarily childish, but it was to assess, I guess, the way I communicate and my imagination. So we had 3 little tasks. One was reading a book that was just literally a picture book. So it was just pictures, and I had to make a story just looking at the pictures on the page, and that was difficult. I like books with loads of words, so I can read. The second and third was using some objects, 5 little objects, like a pen, a rubber band, a piece of string, and you had to make a little story with these 5 objects that linked the 5 objects. That was difficult because if he said this piece of string is Jane, I couldn't see that the piece of string was Jane. To me, that piece of string was a piece of string. It's not a person. So I couldn't associate the characters or the people or whoever it was in the story. That led us on to then, once we completed the full assessment, it then led us on to March, just last month, 2019, for my final appointment. In the final appointment, it was like a 45-minute appointment. We discussed and went through everything that we discussed in the full assessment. So all the findings from the full assessment with the doctor and the psychologist, myself and my sister, and we discussed that. They then gave me the diagnosis. Yep, you're autistic. We're really happy to diagnose that. And then they gave me a massive pack full of paperwork of all the things where I could find support in my area, and basically told, you'll get a full report in the post of all the things that you need support with. Basically, this is your last appointment. You won't be seeing us again. So it's kind of like, I almost feel I'm relieved that I have a diagnosis to explain who I am, to explain me, my behaviour, my thoughts, my feelings. But also I'm a little bit lost at the moment because I'm trying to work through all of that, all the things that it brings with the diagnosis, and trying to work through, and I guess work through my own strategies, coming up with things that help me, realising what the triggers are and trying to avoid those triggers. So there's a lot of things that come with it and that encompass autism for me, but it's definitely been a positive thing for me. It hasn't changed me as a person, obviously, because autism has always been a part of me, even from when I was a baby, but it's just given me a reason to fight and stand up for what I need that helps me. So it's given me that voice and that confidence to all of a sudden come out of my shell a little bit more, because this is who I am and I'm embracing it. And I think, I'm going to spend the next couple of months embracing that, and certainly this week, that's what I'm going to do. I'm taking this opportunity to embrace who I am. I am an autistic female. So if you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video for Autism Awareness Week.